Welcome to the Feeling Lighter podcast. I'm Coach Tyler. Today, as always, with Dr. Lisa.
Hey there.
Oh, I love it. Every time I look at you, I just, what am I going to get? A smile, a laugh, something like that, right?
We've been sitting here too long.
So. I know, yeah.
Okay,
well,
hi.
I'm particularly excited today. I know I say that every single time, but there's someone coming on the show today who is very important to me.
Yeah.
This is my
Me too.
partner in life and such an amazing human being, Katie. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for that nice intro. I'll take it.
Yeah. I've watched you go through so many transformations in our time together. And really the last few years and really the last year or less, I've watched you go through so many transitions and so many changes. And so we wanted to have you back on the show because you used to host this show. And we wanted to catch up with you and just get an understanding of what's happened since you chose to go take a different route and give you a chance to just share kind of a follow-up on your journey with our listeners.
That would be great. I don't really know where to start, except I miss you all.
We miss you too.
And I still love all the work that you're doing at WeShape. I think it's, when I look back on my time at WeShape, what I realized was that my willingness to go through the door of examining my relationship to my body was the start of my examining my relationship with my entire self.
Yeah.
And I know that that's what WeShape offers people, is just all they need is a slight willingness to examine what they've been told about their body, examine their relationship with their body, and it really unravels so much for the better. And more recently, I've been thinking a lot about achievement and how women specifically attain a lot of their achievement and worth through their body, through their physical appearance, and how destructive that really is, and what happens when we start dismantling those beliefs and really looking at ourselves through a very, very different lens, how liberating, how free it can all be.
Yeah. And it sounds very beautiful, but, we talk. And I know you, and I know that how beautiful the process sounds. We wrap it in a bow. It doesn't feel good when you're going through it. So
it's a shitstorm for sure.
I was going to say, I would love for you to get into the kind of the ugly of it, like how you felt, making these realizations and then making from what you were learning about yourself, making decisions to change huge parts of your life. Like, how did that feel for you, and what was that process like?
It felt terrible. But once you unlearn something, you can't unsee it. And the only thing to do from there is to make change, really. And change is uncomfortable, even if it's for the better. And so I would just encourage people, you are capable of dealing with discomfort. I think so much of my life before was managing preemptively how I would deal with discomfort. Well, if I do this diet or I do this exercise plan or I live my life in this way, I will get approval and validation and I won't have to deal with discomfort. But that comes with its own discomfort in so many ways. And it's just an endless path to nothing anyway. But I think for me, it's just been knowing that I am capable of dealing with discomfort. And unlearning things can be painful, but I do think that to the degree at which you're willing to face that discomfort will be to the degree at which you will be liberated. So it's just as equally rewarding to go through something like that in the end. And I know I will continue to go through different things, but I hope that's making sense when I say
100%.
Just the willingness to face things inside of you will be proportionate to the liberation that you get on the other side of that.
I think in a lot of ways you're shedding parts of yourself that are rooted in, the desire to be seen and validated outside of yourself. And when that happens, at least in my experience, you're like, who am I? What am I doing this for? What's the point? And you have to reconnect with your values and what really matters to you. And I'm wondering if you can share with people that part of the process, when you started to shed this is what makes me valuable. No, this is what makes me valuable. No, this is what makes me valuable. And you just start to frankly start to run out of things that you think are going to make you valuable. And at some point, you have to realign those values. So tell us about that process in your own experience.
Well, I brought a book, which should be no surprise to any of you. But
I think
already
all these books back here are Katie's, and there's more all
Yeah,
over
I'd like
the
those back, actually. But I already talked with Tyler and Lisa about this book the other day, so you're going to hear it again. But this book called The Extraordinary Gift of Being Ordinary by Dr. Ronald Siegel. I'm going to read a very short paragraph because this is really what I have been on the path of the last number of months. Okay, feeling safely connected to others turns out to be the central ingredient in human flourishing, while being disconnected is a risk factor for all sorts of ills. It's not the rich, privileged, good-looking, or powerful people who are happiest. It's those who have loved ones, friends, community, and meaningful work. So, I think this journey for me has been about that, has been about connecting with myself and my community and not connecting with external validation around all of the social conditioning and rules that tell me I'm valuable. When I left the company, I went through a really tortured time internally because everything I thought I stood for around feminism and women-owned companies, I was like basically having to reevaluate all of that. And while I still stand really firm in those beliefs and really want women to feel empowered to be able to do whatever they want, this season of my life told me you're actually going to pause and you're not going to get your validation through that path at this time. We'll figure out what you're going to do with your career later. And so I went from like being a real victim of that. Like I failed my daughters, I failed the company, I failed people around me, to gratitude that I even have the opportunity to pause and be at home with my children for some time. Because that in itself is a huge privilege. And if I sit in the victimhood of I let feminism down, then I'm really not able to access deeper parts of me that I have been pretty disconnected from for a long time. And, something interesting happened this last weekend. You both were there. I turned 40 and had an intimate dinner with a number of my close people. And somebody said, actually a number of people said this at the table, we really wish you could see yourself in the way that others see you. And that has really been my life's work, and I think that's many of our lives' work. I think that's all of our lives' work, is to really detach from all the beliefs that we have about ourselves. And this is why this podcast was created. It's about feeling lighter, and I believe that feeling lighter can only come from the shedding of beliefs about yourself and shifting that perspective.
Definitely. And I would just like to say, I think feminism is about understanding and appreciating all of the paths that we should be offered as women and that should be available to us. And if that is, being a boss and running a company, or if that's staying home with my children, or if that's organizing in the community, or if that's any combination of these things, I think it's, it should all be honored and respected. And I think that, sometimes when we have maybe a more narrow view of what that's supposed to look like in our lives, whenever a shift comes, it's like, no, but I know that you didn't let anyone down now, but I can imagine, feeling that in those moments was very difficult. And
I can see how narrow-minded that perspective was. True feminism is my autonomy to decide what is best for me, not what is projected onto me.
Absolutely so.
But you touched on this already, and you said, you want to talk about achievement. And we went for a walk last night, and speaking to this feminism too, I think things get co-opted by hustle culture, right? You're supposed to be this and that and this and that and this and that. It's like almost impossible for people to achieve without burning yourself out and completely detaching from maybe what your body really needs. Yeah. And we went on this walk last night, and you had just made these like dumplings for dinner, which I think you had like a struggle. Some of it you were like really proud of, and then some of it you were like, oh, it didn't turn out quite like I wanted. But during that walk, you said something. You said, or achievement. And we had this moment of like achievement being like one of these elusive things that we get addicted to find value in ourselves. And you also mentioned like, just being at home and like making dumplings can just brings so much happiness and joy, just as much as becoming a CEO of a giant company and leading this charge that you thought you were supposed to lead. So can you speak to that more? Because I think there's a lot of women out there who listen to this that probably identify with being a perfectionist and really want to use achievement as a way to validate themselves rather than just being able to be present with whatever's going on in their life and really have a lot of value for themselves there.
Well, first of all, I'm not making those dumplings again.
Aw.
They were
Those
delicious.
Were like, I know it took like 3 hours. I was like,
Oh yeah, it was
I
a
do
big
not
meal.
have time for this. No, it was a fun experiment, but no, I'm not making those again. Sorry, Taylor. It's spaghetti tonight. Right after I left, I had this nagging voice inside of me. What are you gonna do next? What are you gonna do next? What are you gonna do next? And I had this quiet voice inside of me say, learn to be happy here or be happy nowhere. And I just was like, isn't that so true with every part of our life? Learn to be happy here or be happy nowhere, because that's always what I'm trying to do, is get out of discomfort. And it's just...
So the chasing of achievement takes you away from the discomfort of being present.
Yeah. And so sometimes when I'm annoyed or agitated, I'm doing the dishes or something, I'm like, be in the dishes.
Yeah,
be in the pickup line at school. Be here. Like, it really is, human beings, in my opinion, are really simple, but we complicate it so much. And I do think that it all comes back to just right here and right now, and learning to find peace and contentment in moments that are not full of peace and contentment. Like, I kept waiting for the puzzle pieces to align in order to say, I can finally feel peace. But it's actually a big pile of mismatched puzzle pieces that might not even go together. And it's just being happy there. And so, and I also think the goal shouldn't be happiness. I think the goal should be presence with whatever experience we're having. Yeah. So if we're in a lot of discomfort, just acknowledging, wow, I'm really uncomfortable in this space right now. And more will be revealed. This will not last forever. I think there's a trick. It's like the human trick of like, this discomfort means forever, so I must do something to escape it. And I don't know, I can see where I've tried to escape that discomfort for so long.
Yeah, we all have, because it's uncomfortable, right? And this is so funny because, yes, I was at your 40th birthday party, and I got a tattoo there because, that's what we do in our 40s.
Me too, but we'll talk about that one in another episode.
That's another episode.
That's a different episode.
I got the yin and the yang, and it's so funny because it was just so 90s, right? That was the theme of the party. But it makes a lot of sense with regard to what you're saying, is embracing, like, we can't have a goal of happiness because, right, we're going to be unhappy sometimes. But we only know happiness because we know unhappiness, right? We only know light because we know dark. Nothing can exist without its opposite. And so it's really important to embrace, like you said, those moments and that discomfort and feeling unhappy, feeling sad, feeling, whatever, anger, whatever the emotion is. And then the peace comes, you curate that inside yourself. So it's like, I'm going to be at peace in this icky situation, in this ugly situation. And that is so hard to do. But once you get it, it's like a superpower. And I would love to know, personally, where was one of your, most uncomfortable moments? Like, where did that happen for you? What was it? Yeah, just pick one. Pick a good one. And then, how did you sort of navigate through it to get to the other side?
Well, I think I really felt like I have 2 daughters, and I wanted them to see that women could go and have a startup company and do something good in the world with their time and energy. And I felt like I had really let myself down. I was letting them down. And I realized that, working through perfectionism, I think, has been an ongoing struggle for me and still is. And realizing and noticing the difference between perfectionism and just being proud of your work are very different intentions. So I can be proud of the things that I'm doing, but it doesn't have to live in the container of perfectionism. Perfectionism lives in a container of linked to external validation based on societal rules that have been set up. It's like, here's the rule book of the world, and if you follow these rules, you will get validated. And first of all, it never really happens. And second of all, just it takes you away from who you really are. And so I think the perfectionism and then learning that, my children are probably more proud of me today than they ever were when I was running the company. And it doesn't mean that I don't encourage women to be running companies. I want to be really clear about that. And I also know this is a break for me. This is not an ending for me in terms of like me being in a capacity of some business capacity. It might be a long break. I don't know. I'm not trying to figure that out right now. But I did go to a school meeting for my daughter the other day, and there were a couple of her teachers in there, and they said, can you help us understand what's going on at home, because we're noticed a really big shift in Ellie over the last 3 months, 6 months. And I went, well, I guess there's a big variable of me being more present with them. And they were like, oh, okay, that makes a lot more sense. And so that I really went from I can't believe I'm letting everybody down to sitting in immense gratitude that I even have the choice to be with them, because a lot of people don't even have that choice. And I could have lived in that victim role forever. And now I'm living in right now. This is the season of where I am. I don't know how long it will last. And I feel complete peace about that, and mostly just gratitude that I even have the opportunity, honestly.
A lot of time I hear you talking there, it becomes really evident that you're very cultivating a lot of peace within uncertainty. Right? And I think for a lot of people, I always think about this Mark Twain quote, I have known a great many sorrows, most of which never happened. Right? And I think that we, as people, we think forward to the future of what could be, and we start anticipating, and that's how our brains are supposed to work and function. They're prediction machines. But it's what causes so much unnecessary suffering. And so when I hear you talking about this and talking about finding peace in the unknown or peace in the discomfort, how do you do that? Like, what do you say to yourself? I know you've got all kinds of little phrases and things that pop up into your mind that help you stay present these days. So I'm just really trying to hope that we can offer people something practical that they might start thinking over and over again that could be valuable to them, rather than something that is negative, like these thoughts of anxiety that we often stress ourselves out from.
Well, truth be told, just to destigmatize, things around mental health. Before I left the company, about 2 to 3 months before, I have always known I've had OCD, and it's been very managed. But the more stress that I have in my life, the less manageable it becomes. And I saw this TikTok of this woman who was like, if you don't have a therapist that's trained in OCD, like, it's problematic, you should find one. So I thought, I'm going to look for a therapist that has, that can hold the container of OCD so that I can have some guidance here. So I went online and I found this place, and I called them, and they did an intake with me, and they said, yeah, the way we treat OCD, especially at the level that you're testing into, is through outpatient treatment. And I was like, hell no, like, I can't be at that level, like, recheck my scores. They're like, no, this is how we do a redo. This is how we treat OCD. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to have to like go to people and be like, I'm going to outpatient treatment. Like, I was very worried about that, especially when I'm trying to manage perfectionism, right? And I realized that it had really taken over so much of my life in ways that I hadn't begun to understand. And so I realized one of the things that made me, I basically had 3 cards on the table when I was ending my time at the company, which was, you can show up for your children, you can show up for this company, or you can show up for your mental health, but we can't give you all 3 cards, you only get to pick 2. And that was so clear to me, pick 2. And I was like, oh no. So I did pick my children and my mental health, and I did go to outpatient treatment. And what I learned in that outpatient treatment, I spent 3 weeks working one-on-one with a clinical psychologist. And what I learned was that so much of what I learned applies to everybody, first of all. Mine was just a really exaggerated form that was taking over more of my life. But what I learned is that uncertainty is where most of our anxiety comes from, is just not knowing. And she basically, what I learned from that was that human behaviors is that we want to avoid. So we'll do anything to avoid the anxiety and avoid the uncertainty and tell ourselves stories that we know what's going to happen. And basically what I learned was how to face that and say, no, I'm going towards the anxiety. I'm going towards the uncertainty, not away from it. And what she told me was, you're going to go towards it and the anxiety is going to get a little higher. So it's going to make you feel like you're going to want to do your old patterns of avoiding it, but keep going towards it. And we can give you some tools of things you can tell yourself along the way, but then it's going to drop down lower than it did before. Just trust the process, because your OCD hates uncertainty. Anxiety hates uncertainty. And you're going to go up to the bully of anxiety and say, I'm here. I'm okay with uncertainty, and see what happens. So that's what I did. I practiced that every day for 3 weeks with one-on-one with this psychologist. And what I do now is very different than what I did before. And she gave me a couple little phrases like, that makes me anxious. Just acknowledging it. Anything's possible. Yeah, that could happen. That thing that I'm worried about could happen. So what? Then what? And so what I learned was that all of my tactics for avoiding these things were actually driving me deeper in the anxiety. And if I just said I'm standing up to it and saying, no matter what comes my way, I will be able to deal with it when it happens, it sort of got, the voice is still there, but it's a lot quieter now. So I just tell myself little things like that. Yep, it could happen, and I'll be able to deal with it. Yep, I'm feeling anxious. That's part of being a human. And it's so simple. But it's so real, and it has helped me so much.
I love that.
I
Turn
love it
towards
so
it
much.
instead of run away from it. Right?
I like the bully analogy, because that's what it is. It's like this little mean bully, or big mean bully, telling you like, yeah, you're not going to be able to figure this out. You're going to suck. And you just stood up to it. And you realize, like most bullies, it's all bark, no real bite, if you just stand in it and sit in the discomfort. So I'm so proud of you. That's awesome.
I'm
Thanks.
proud of
That's
you
awesome.
too. And you went through, I think you're glossing over this outpatient therapy, if you don't mind me jumping in here.
Isn't there?
You went through like intense, like hardcore exposure therapy. And one of the things that I know you've talked about a little bit in the past on the podcast is that you have a intense phobia of vomiting. And like, I looked up exposure therapy before this thing happened, and I was like, what are they going to do? Like, how is this going to
You
work?
didn't tell me that.
Oh my God. And then Katie, like, of course, I don't remember what they did first. Maybe you could fill in the gaps here. But at some point, she came home on the weekends and 5 or 6 times a day would have to listen to somebody vomiting for
It's
like
terrible.
5 or 10 minutes, like 5 or 6 times a day. It was just that noise over and over again, to the point where I was like, I am nauseous. Like, turn that off. Like, this is horrible. But what you're saying is, when we run away from fear, it gets bigger, and it keeps chasing us, and it keeps saying bigger and bigger things to try and get our attention. But when we walk up towards it and we say, I'm here, I'm going to face you, and you can't do anything to hurt me, and I'm okay with that, it starts to go away. And so, like, walk people through that process, because I know that was not easy, but by the end of it, I had never seen someone make so much progress on like a visceral fear that just, I've watched tax your nervous system so many times. And then, of course, after the 3 weeks, the first 2 weeks of that, a bunch of people got sick, and there was like norovirus and stuff. So it felt like, God swooped in and just throw down some real trials,
Wow.
right in the beginning. So I don't know if you want to speak to that or not, but I just think it was really incredible.
My therapist could not believe the amount of natural norovirus that was around us my first week home. She was like, holy shit, what's going on over there? And I was, anyway. Yeah, and you can just insert your own fear. Everybody has a fear. Like, and if people tell you they're not afraid of anything, I question their honesty. They are lying. So it's like, yeah, one of my bigger fears was vomiting, and I understand where it came from with various things that had gone on in my childhood. But I essentially, like, yeah, I did get through that, and I am less afraid of it. And it sucks. Nobody wants to be puking. Nobody wants norovirus. But I feel like I can stand up to it and say, well, that would suck, and I would be able to deal with it if it happened. So yeah, I did a lot of exposure therapy, writing about vomiting, watching vomiting, listening to vomiting. It was sort of like, I was so sick of it by the end that I was like, okay, I'll just puke, it's fine.
It's fine. Anything to stop listening to it.
Yeah, I was over it. But like, you can insert anything, right? I'm afraid to have that conversation with my mother. I'm afraid to go to this event because what will people think of me? I'm afraid to do this. I'm afraid to do that. Now, being afraid of something and then like also not wanting to do something are very different things, right? Like, I'm not saying people should have that conversation with their mother or go to a party where they would be ridiculed or whatever. I'm saying that we all know what we're kind of anxious and afraid about. And if we sit with it, we can understand where it comes from. And the point I was trying to make is running away from it or avoiding it will actually always keep it there. And I really can say I was like literally like having to take panic attack medications when people in my house would vomit to that would suck. Oh, okay. That doesn't feel good. Because I said I'll be able to deal with the discomfort. I will be able to deal with this discomfort. I am going to get through it.
There's
That's
faith
it. It was just
there.
facing it. It's literally just facing it.
Yeah.
And saying, I'm not going to try. It's like the avoidance of the anxiety, or if I do this, if I tell myself this, if I ruminate. Rumination was a huge part of my exposure therapy. All human beings ruminate. People with OCD tend to ruminate more. But all humans do it. And so what I do now when the rumination starts, I go, oh, there's the rumination. You're going in mental loops. And I just say, that would suck. And then I do something else.
Right,
because
breaking that loop.
I can't predict what's going to happen. I can't predict.
Let's talk about that rumination piece more, because I think it's a big one. Like you said, this is something I think everybody can relate to very easily. Is we have a fear, and the fear comes up, and then maybe it stews for a while, and then it goes away, and then it just keeps repeating over and over again. And what I heard you say there was a powerful tool, which is like acknowledge it, and then go do something else. Just like do something else. So when you were having those moments and those fears were really getting the best of you, and when you were saying to yourself, I have the ability to deal with this, but then you found yourself maybe not believing that, or maybe sliding back into more rumination, what's the way to get out of that? How do we snap ourselves out of that so we can move forward?
I tell myself, you're a human being. And even though you got the privilege of working with this expert for 3 weeks in this intensive outpatient treatment, you're not going to be perfect at it. So it's really just going back. Then it's like, I'm anxious that I'm not doing the protocol correctly. It's like, this is bananas. So it's just, again, I handle the rumination the same way I'm handling the other fears. That, oh, maybe I am overly ruminating. Maybe I'm not following the protocol perfectly. It's sort of just acknowledging the uncertainty in everything and just saying, I'm a human being and uncertainty is part of this whole game. And it's really just that. It's just saying, yep, I'm anxious. Yep. Oh, was I ruminating? Maybe. Was it too much? Possibly. It's sort of like meeting uncertainty with your own uncertainty, with your acceptance of the uncertainty that has helped me personally the most. It's like, I'm just going to tell the uncertainty that I'm uncomfortable and that, you're right, I don't know. It's kind of like if somebody came up to you and was like really wanting to like be mean to you and stick it to you and you're like, you're a jerk. And instead of defending your position, you said, yeah, maybe I am. What would they say? They just are like, they're going to go harder? Maybe not. I don't know. Yeah. Probably not. Because it's like, just maybe you're right.
Just acknowledging the thing. So it sounds like you're naming it, and then you are sitting with the discomfort of that thing, and just being okay, and not deciding that you have to fight or come back at it. It's just like, this could be true, this could be happening, this is a feeling, this is a fear of mine, I am anxious, and then moving through it. It's like we spend all our time avoiding the thing and running from it, but really the way through it is through it. Yeah. Like literally
actually
through
experience it.
So just like even picturing yourself like energetically like expanding and getting bigger and saying, yes, that could happen. That would suck. Yeah. I mean, that's it. And trusting that you are not God of the universe and that there must be something much greater than us. I don't know what that is. I don't pretend to know what that is. I know some of us subscribe to different beliefs about what that is, and that's all great. But that's not the point. The point is that we empower ourselves to a level that tricks our mental psyche into believing that we have control. Yeah. And that, to me, was the root of my anxiety. I am not God. I don't really know the future. And that makes me really uncomfortable. And so just to call it out and face it with, I'm right. Yeah, that could happen was such a game changer for me. And it is uncomfortable, but it's like when you go to try to strengthen your legs in the gym. It's the same thing. Like, I want to get a stronger lower body. Okay, great. You're going to have to go more than one time to make that happen. You have to practice this stuff more than once in order for it to start kind of settling down. And what she told me in the beginning is, right now this voice is so loud, it dictates everything. And we don't want it to fully go away. Anxiety has a very important biological function to prevent you from actual harmful situations. Yeah. We don't want it to go away. But I'd rather it be an annoying little gnat that's swimming around your environment versus a giant monster that's taken over your whole mind. And that's exactly what happened when I decided to just face it and acknowledge it and be uncomfortable. It's still there. I don't have some magical get out of jail free card going on here, but it's not as loud. It's not as loud.
That is so good. I want to know, because obviously you left the company and your life, your day-to-day looks different now. What are there any specific strategies, with going back to the talk around perfectionism, are there any particular strategies you're employing, like at home now with your regular day-to-day life, that keeps you from going from one, situation where I'm trying to be perfect and trying to figure it all out and trying to keep everybody happy, to now being in this new environment and going right into that same sort of mindset? What is it? I mean, because, for me, working, for myself and being in the world, that's like one level of stress, and then coming home and being with children and managing dinners and meals, and that's a whole nother type of stress. And so I think we all, especially as women, kind of pick which one is going to be best for us in whatever season we're in. But how do you not take that mentality home to where now it's like, oh, maybe I have to be Martha Stewart, or maybe everybody has to have a homemade breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day, or now everything has to be, how do you let go of that perfectionism in this new space, in this kind of new role that you're focused on right now?
Well, it's kind of like I talked about before. Like, am I doing this because I want to be proud of the work that I'm doing, or am I doing it because I want someone to praise my efforts? Yeah. And sometimes I do like it when Tyler comes home and says, wow, I feel really appreciative that this, and this happened today because you were here. But I think but I'll be honest with you, I really enjoyed the time that I had building that company. Like, that was some of the most meaningful work. And again, I don't know what the future holds, and I'm just waiting it out. But I really have learned that you can learn to love anything. Yeah. Like, I used to open the dryer and see all these clothes and and I was like, I don't want to do any of this. I felt like I was doing just like mind-numbing tasks all day. And I thought to myself, you can be the victim of this, or you can be grateful for your privilege and learn to love it. You don't have to know how to love it, but you can be willing to learn how to love it. And that's what's happened for me, is I have removed myself from the container of perfectionism. I do go Martha mode sometimes, but it's not from the place of external validation. It's because sometimes I do enjoy things like, projects, or I do genuinely enjoy things like that. But it's just from my intention. What is my intention? And I have learned to love laundry. I have learned to love cleaning. I have learned to love, all the neighborhood kids running through my house creating chaos every day after school. You've seen it yourself, Lisa.
I have seen it.
But it has been such a lesson to me. And I felt like I had to fit a certain identity in order to feel like a powerful woman in the world. And what I have learned is that you really can learn to love to do anything, even things that you thought were, I never want to be, just doing monotonous tasks all day at home for other people in service to others. And I was like, wow, I get to be in service of others. I know that sounds crazy. And I do make sure to carve out some time for my own, self and sanity, even if it's just a few minutes a day. But it really shifted my perspective that I can, again, back to what I was saying, if you can't be happy now with the cards you've been dealt, you won't be happy with a different hand.
I've noticed such a tremendous shift in your ability to be present with things that you're doing and find joy in it. And it's been it's been shockingly fast for me, to be totally frank. In the last 3-4 months, it's just been a tremendous shift. And I also want to point out too that there's a difference between wanting to do something exceptional because you love it, and wanting to do something exceptional because you need other people to praise you for it. Right. And I think that it's really important that we always look at our intentions underneath our actions, because you are for sure someone who's a perfectionist. But I watched you plan your birthday party, and there were many points throughout that where you could have gotten really upset and frustrated, and you could have thought about what other people are going to think about this, and oh, I'm doing this to make sure that everyone else is this and that. And really, deep down inside, I knew you were just doing the thing that you wanted to do, right? It was like you were doing this for Katie, ultimately, at the end of the day. And so it was really beautiful to watch you go through that process and very much minimize the amount of frustration that normally would have happened if you were holding on to it with a much more perfectionistic lens. So yeah, I just want people at home to not feel like this doesn't mean you should like not have a super tidy house if that's what floats your boat, or like do the things that you want to do in the ways that you want to do them. It's just, are you doing it because of fear and anxiety and insecurity and the need to be validated? Or are you doing it because this is the way you want your world to look and the way you want your world to operate? So
it goes back to intentions.
Yeah.
I mean, intentions are so big, and just being okay to be who I am is the constant lesson that I keep learning. It's just like everyone said at my party, like, we wish you could see yourself in the way that we see you. And that is the work that I will probably forever do. How do I connect with that person on the inside so that I can slowly erase the rules that that person was living by? And that's really all it is. And for me, it's just about finding that contentment in today. And I used to want to look 5 years, my 2-year plan. It's like, what's today's plan? That's kind of where I keep coming back to.
Letting go of the rules. That feels like a really big theme of your journey, right? Because when we have rules, they're there to keep us feeling safe. And when we follow the rules, we're feeling safe. When we don't have rules, or when we don't follow the rules, we don't feel safe. And so, yeah, letting go of the rules and embracing the discomfort, like, I've just watched you go through that in such a beautiful way and come out the other side and feel like a different person to me very quickly.
I mean, honestly, like, speaking to that, WeShape was my avenue for doing something really big in the world that I felt was so needed, that touched on all of my passion around, you know, the patriarchy and racism and like all of these, capitalism, like all of these things that I feel so passionate about. I was like, I can do this in a really meaningful way that can help a lot of people, that can grow a community that supports one another and really repave a path in the fitness industry. And I still do believe in WeShape. But at the time, I was doing that at the expense of my relationship with my children and at the expense of the relationship that I needed to cultivate with myself. I have no regrets because WeShape is still here. But I mentioned this the other night when Lisa came over for dinner, because I actually think about this like almost every day. When I was watching President Barack Obama do an interview on some late night show, and he had said, like, the people think it has to be this big thing that they're doing in the world, but it really comes back to, what are you doing in your neighborhood? What are you doing from the people closest to you? And if everybody did something in that container, life would be so different. And so while I have no regrets about WeShape, and I am so grateful that it's still moving forward, the work I do now is really with my own children and with the kids in my neighborhood. Like, I'll host an art activity, or I'll check in with them about how they're feeling, or I'll connect with them in a meaningful way. And I feel just as satisfied with that work now as I did when I was running the company. That was not how I felt when I first left.
Right.
But it's not my job to dictate the path. It's my job to just show up and try to find a way to be content with where I am today.
That's a beautiful evolution. And it's so funny because you actually taught me the no rules thing. Like, that was you. That was you going through all the stuff you were going through. You were telling me. And that's, I think, and I'm so, glad to be at your party to hear other people say the same things about you. Being able to see yourself the way that other people see you, the way that you pour into people. It's all the stuff that you already need and have inside of you. And so it's so beautiful to watch you start to acknowledge that and start to tap into those things that you're always giving out to other people, and your children are immensely blessed to have you to now pour into them on a daily basis. Not that you weren't before, obviously, but just to be able to be more present in that space. And that is your work, and it's beautiful, and it's a great season, and I'm just happy that you're embracing it and enjoying it and, finding the acceptance and the contentment in it. So
And I just want to share that the night before last, Dr. Lisa's out here, and we drove home, and we get to the house, and there's 7 children.
Yes.
7 children in the house. And I only have 2 kids, right? So 5 additional kids in the house, and they're all there. Like, one of them had helped make some of the dessert, and one of them was helping set the table. And I think this day and age, children don't get as much presence from the adults around them as they deserve.
100%.
And my philosophy on being a great parent is really rooted in 2 things. It's how much can I unconditionally love them as best I can, and I know I'm going to fail miserably, and how much presence can I offer them, and I know I'm going to fail miserably there too. But the more we can do that, the more I think children feel loved and seen and able to show up as themselves in the world. And watching those kids with you just makes me smile so much, because every single one of them walks up to you like you're their mother and knows that you will validate their feelings, you will be present with them, you will encourage them, you will help them walk through and navigate their emotions. And that's something that most of us never had.
100%.
And I think you should be really, really proud of that. It's a really, really cool experience to watch you pour into people, not because you feel obligated, but because you feel like you have the ability to make an impact on their lives in a meaningful way, even if it just feels like something as small as validating someone's feelings and telling them how to navigate it. It's a big deal.
Well, you know, it reminded me, I have a particular person in my life who I've always really respected and felt like they're just emanate an energy that people can feel safe around. And their life's goal has never been to have the biggest business or this or that. It's just been to be present and pour love into people. And while I do deeply believe in WeShape and feel tremendous gratitude that company continues to go on, and that people like you, Tyler, and Lisa are there doing that work, like I really can't express my gratitude. This is so needed in the world. It's just, I had to surrender to, it wasn't me who needed to lead that. And that was painful because it did offer me a lot of validation. But I can find contentment and peace and worth and value when I pour that love into myself and to other people just as much as I did there. And so it's just about surrendering that I'm not driving the car, I'm just a passenger, and I can kick and scream throughout that journey, or I can look out the window and see the beautiful scenery around me and feel grateful that I'm in the car. And it's really just up to me what I choose to do with that. And the more I learn I have choice, the freer I get.
Well, one thing's for sure, Katie, you live your life authentically, right out front, and you're not afraid of what other people think about it. And I think a lot of people can learn from that. Because
I'm a little bit afraid, but I still keep showing up.
But you do it anyway.
Do it afraid, and that's the point.
Oh, man. Well, I would normally say, Katie, where can people find you if they want to learn more about you? But I don't think you want anybody to find you.
You can find me leading an art activity with the neighborhood kids.
Perfect.
I love that.
Perfect.
Well, thanks for jumping on the show. We'd love to have you back on.
Thanks for having me. I always love
conversation
connecting with WeShape.
Awesome.
And thank you for your work and everyone there on that team who's doing really powerful work. It's so needed in the world, and I hope that people continue to find WeShape. It was the door to changing everything for me.
Well, you were a huge part of this, and your fingerprint on this won't ever go away. So,
Right.
Thank you all so much.
bye.
Thank you.